Episode of the Cattle USA Daily Podcast. Today we are welcoming back Gary Lezek with the Weather 2020 team. If you guys are interested in hearing a little bit more about that partnership, we introduced it last week, so make sure you go check out that episode. But today we're going to be talking about this week's weather outlook as we continue to see some warm-ups across the United States and specifically the Midwest this week. We're also going to be talking last freeze dates and everything else in between. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode and hear more from Gary. Alrighty, Gary. Well, we're here again. We're talking about the weather. What do we got? What do we got coming on for this next coming week? We're going to talk a little bit about freeze dates today too, guys. All of that stuff. What are we going to be seeing, Gary?
You know what, Lauren? I've got some good news. I'm sure you already know. It's going to warm up. Are you excited?
Praise the Lord. We were just saying how sick and tired I am of the freezing temperatures.
I know. It's ridiculous. It got down to Valentine, Nebraska, got down to like minus 32 degrees. Isn't that crazy?
I'm really happy I don't live up there.
I know. I can't even imagine that. It's weird when it comes to temperatures. You know, you have these two scales we use, Fahrenheit and Celsius, right? Mm-hmm. And when it's 0 degrees Celsius, that's 32 degrees Fahrenheit or freezing. Did you know that there's a temperature that it gets down to where they're both exactly the same? Did you know that?
What? No,
Yeah.
I didn't.
So
What is it?
0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point, or 212 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep.
But when it gets down to minus 40 degrees, and Valentine, Nebraska was close to that, Celsius and Fahrenheit are exactly the same. Isn't that amazing? Look
That's
at the
crazy.
calculations, play around with it. But
That's
minus
crazy.
40 degrees Fahrenheit equals minus 40 degrees Celsius. There's your stat of the day.
That's our fun fact of the day. Gotta love it. Oh, that's fun. I never would have known that. Well, thanks for the fun fact. Appreciate it.
It's not supposed to get that cold, right?
Yeah, no, we're not. I'm not supposed to have to worry about knowing what minus 40 degrees in Celsius and Fahrenheit it actually is.
I know. I've
my gosh.
never experienced it either. So anyway, that's crazy. The weather pattern is absolutely fascinating. We introduced last week the LRC to your audience, and the LRC stands for my name, the Lezek Recurring Cycle. Basically, the weather pattern is cycling and regularly, and this cold outbreak is related to the cold outbreak we had in January when it first really turned cold. It turned brutally cold in January too, so when you have two brutally cold outbreaks in a winter, then you start saying it was a cold winter. And I think we're going to all remember this as a cold winter. And it didn't start out that way. In October and November, when this weather pattern set up, and that first cycle of this weather pattern into the beginning of the second cycle, it was not cold. I wondered, we always wonder every year, if the Arctic oscillation dips negative, then it's going to turn cold, increased chance. If it drops to deep negative. It's an index I talk about on our weather intelligence report I do each week, but it dropped to minus 4 or so in January, and the Arctic air blasted in, and it lasted longer than normal. Then it just dropped to minus 5 on that AO index, and the Arctic air blasted in and even stronger. And it's rare that it's even stronger in February than it would be in January. And now the AO, that index, has gone up, and here comes the warm-up. So it's good news. Now, remember, the pattern is cycling regularly. So, Lauren, that means the pattern that just produced the snow and the cold will cycle back through again in about 6 weeks later. So if it hit February the 14th around Valentine's Day, February the 10th to 20th, that 10-day stretch, that will come back around March 15th or 20th to April 1st or 3rd. So
Cool. So I'm going on a vacation to the Bahamas from those dates. In case you guys are wondering, I'm going to be out of the office on a beach.
There you go.
Those dates next month.
Wow.
So just throwing that out there right now.
That sounds fantastic.
Oh my gosh, I wish.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what's going on. But will it snow again at the end of March, in early April? It's not too late. It's actually totally within the normal range of one more big snow possibly. So we'll see if the AO dips negative again. It's probably going to be another strong cold front and a potential for snow. Just know that's coming our way here in a few weeks.
Okay. Well, hey, you know what? At least it's going to be warm next week. Okay. Like I'm just going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on the fact that it's going to warm up next week, except that's like a catch-22 this time of year, right? It warms up and then we get the mud and I'm like, it's great that it's warm out, but also I'm sick of the mud. So you know what? There's always something to complain about, but at least I'm going to be warm when I'm walking my dogs in the morning or out doing whatever we're doing.
I walked my dogs in the snow this morning. So yeah, I know the mud is bad and good. Mud is good because that means maybe we're not having a drought, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly.
So, but we'll see how that goes. But I know what you mean. And yeah, we had 9 inches of snow here in Golden this morning, and it's been I think it's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, and it's beneficial. I just think it's pretty. But what's amazing, again, back to the cycling pattern, you can't make this up. This goes into the category, you can't make this up. And what I'm saying is that this storm, again, go back not just 6 weeks ago, go all the way back to the beginning in the first cycle, or 120 days ago, 40, 41, it's actually 123 days ago. Look at October 20th and 21st. What happened then? Colorado had a snowstorm, and Roswell, New Mexico had 6 or 7 inches of rain. That is a crazy amount of rain for New Mexico. And remember, what produced that is a storm system in October, and a storm very similar to that just cycled back through. This is good news for reducing the chance of a drought in most of the Corn Belt and most of the cattle area, most of that region for this season coming up. So very interesting. It'll impact hay, etc. And let me just tell you, that's a good sign that it just produced again, that when we get to April and May, it's not going to be a very dry season. I don't know how wet it'll be. Will it be just average, or just a little bit above average, or way above average? We have flooding potential, but the chance of drought is lower this year.
Which is a great thing to hear, especially for us in the Midwest. We love to hear that we're kind of maybe looking on the bright side of out of that drought conditions and stuff like that. What are we seeing for those freeze dates that we were kind of talking about and stuff for coming up in the spring?
Lauren, analyzing the weather pattern. So we know now at the end of March and early April, that's the coldest part of the pattern. And so that's not late for a freeze. That would be early for our last freeze, believe it or not. So in most areas, April 8th, 9th, 10th would be the average last freeze date for a place like Kansas City. A little bit later than that, 10 days later than that for most of Nebraska. So just know that late March and early April, that's when we know there will be a freeze, almost for sure, and probably a hard one, which isn't necessarily bad. And then after that, mid-April, there's another possible cold surge. That could be the last freeze around April 13th to 15th. And then we see one more. Here we go. Think about it. Late March, 6 weeks later, would be mid-May, May 10th to 20th. That's very, very late for a freeze. So perhaps up in the Dakotas, there will be one or a frost. But for Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, probably that April 13th, right around the typical last freeze date, is what our LRC model shows. It has it dipping down to around 30 or 29 degrees in many spots in that mid-April period, and then a couple threats from there. But that's how it's looking right now.
Awesome. And that's good to hear. It's nice when you can look at the weather outcast and kind of see what we can expect, especially for cattle producers, people that are getting ready to plant, all of that stuff, kind of what those last freeze dates are going to look like. And I know we've had years before where we've had a last freeze date in May, and it's not necessarily fun for anyone here in the Midwest.
Or last snow in May.
Yeah, honestly, I would be very grateful if we didn't have to experience that this year and we could just move it on to rain.
Well, I'm in Colorado, so I hope it does happen.
That's fair. That's very fair. Very fair. Awesome, awesome. Well, what else are we seeing on kind of the outcast and stuff like that?
Well, if you go week by week, there are some wet weeks and dry weeks. There's 2 or 3 dry week periods. Maybe next week we'll go and touch upon those as we prepare for some of the agriculture interests out there. I need to do a little more analysis of that, and I'll provide an update for you. But remember, we use this LRC model. It's a patent pending model, and farmers now, hundreds of farmers are starting to use this for their planning, a way to predict the weather long range, and then you can plan with confidence. So that's what our goal at Weather 2020 is, to use that LRC model. Is it perfect? No. Is it 100% accurate? No. Is the river of air above us 100% accurate? Yeah, it's like looking at the Missouri River. You see the river, but predicting where you see a little log floating in the river, you're trying to predict where that storm is going to go. And it is predictable, but you might not be 100% accurate at that. So the river itself of air is cycling close to 100% accurately, but our predictions are somewhere in the 50 to 92% range. When it comes to severe weather outbreaks, in winter storms, we're really good at predicting those. Not exactly how much snow is going to fall, but when it may snow, or a winter storm or severe weather outbreak is going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. When you were prepping for your 9 inches that you guys got over there in Colorado this week, were you like, hey, we're ready for this? We predicted this?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Absolutely. When it was starting to show up on the models that everyone else uses, we're like, there it is. And it looks just like the storm. It looks just like the storm from 120 days ago. And so that gives me confidence to predict it. And so I thought we would get 6 to 10 inches of snow here. We got 9 inches of snow. So it's beautiful outside. I mean, I love it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But I'm from Southern California, Lauren. I'm from Southern California.
Exactly. And you live in Colorado now. Like, of course, like the snow is part of your guys' like just culture in Colorado, right? It's just part of it. Exactly. Precisely. We were just talking about how Gary's going to go skiing later this weekend. So, I mean, you got to have snow in order to enjoy that. So
I know. They just had 50 to 65 inches of snow up in the ski area. So I'm looking forward to that. And, I hadn't skied in 25 years until last year when I moved here. And it was like riding a bike. I did get right back up and I was fine within 5 minutes. But I did pull a hamstring coming off. I got a little too. I thought I can go down that slope, but I probably shouldn't have gone so fast. I'm okay.
It's okay, Gary. If I went skiing right now, I'd make an absolute fool out of myself and probably do worse than just pulling a hamstring. I would probably show up on my next podcast in a sling or something like that, or like a neck brace. Exactly. We don't want that to happen.
I pulled it while I was just getting off of a chairlift. So it's like when I braced myself and then my leg went out. So sad, but it was minor, nothing major. So, but now you need to stay healthy for the Bahamas.
Yes, exactly. We're getting that next cold snap that's coming around, and I'm out. I'm leaving now that Gary and I have had this conversation, and he can tell us exactly when it's coming. I'm getting off of here, and I'm going to go book my vacation, y'all. So
and there will be no hurricanes in the Bahamas yet. You're good.
Oh, good. Okay, appreciate that. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Was so where do I need to go if I'm going south to avoid weather, avoid hurricanes, all the things like that, right?
You're good to go.
Oh, gotta love it. All right, just kind of nationwide, what are we seeing? Any other kind of trends? Anything else that might affect us here in the Midwest, or just things that we should kind of be aware of coming up?
Well, the pattern that's affecting the Midwest and the Plains and in our area, it also is cycling everywhere else around the world. So the regions, the southern hemisphere, Brazil, Argentina, the corn belt down there, very important for corn prices. They have a different cycle. They're in the southern hemisphere, but the LRC works down there too, just a different cycle length. So we also monitor that. But around the United States, the good news, as you said, I can guarantee you it's not just a warm-up for Kansas into the 60s early next week. I can't wait. Early this week. It's going to be really, really nice out there for the next few days. Then it'll go up and down because it is March. March usually comes roaring in like a lion and goes out like a lamb, or reverse. Maybe it'll come in like a lamb and go roaring out like a lion. But March Madness, not just in basketball, March weather madness is going to be happening, and it's going to be a crazy month of weather coming up.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely will. And hey, you know what? At least we're going to be here to tell y'all what you can kind of expect for the coming weeks and stuff like that. Gary and I always record these on Fridays and put them out on Mondays for you guys so that you can start your week off with a little bit of a weather outlook, and Gary and I just hanging out and chit-chatting about everything else that might be going on too. So, Gary, thank you so much for just some of your insight today and stuff like that. We always appreciate it here, and I know our audience has been extremely appreciative of it as well. We always love these conversations, so appreciate your time today. And then to all of you listeners out there, we will see you all tomorrow on another episode of the Cattle USA Daily Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a rating, review. We appreciate all of it here at the team. So we will see you all next week. Not next week. I say that every single stinking time. We will see you all tomorrow on another episode of the Cattle USA Daily Podcast. Have a good one, y'all.